session, InsightStorm. And this session brings together 6 leaders in the design thinking space and asks them to share their critical learnings and insights in a powerful, sharp, tete-a-tete question-answer session. I would like to introduce our moderators for this session, co-founders of Storm the Norm Ventures, Mr. Ranjan Malik and Ms. Anisha Motwani. Ranjan has led in Ranjan is an innovation specialist and writer, and has led and facilitated innovations in initiatives in a large number of organizations across the globe. He has created a methodology for innovation for India awards and the 3C Spot Fund nurture model used by NABARD. He has been a prominent jury member on several prestigious design and innovation awards, including India Design Mark, hosted by India Design Council. Joining Ranjan is Anisha. Anisha, again, is a managing partner of Storm the Norm and business strategist and consultant in the World Bank Group. With over 3 decades of experience in diverse industries, Anisha has recently conceptualized and edited Storm the Norm. With a keen insight into consumer behavior, she has built several well-known consumer brands. Can I hand it over to you, Ranjan?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Namaskar. What we'll do is, and this is going to be, this will go really, really fast. One, we planned, InsightStorm goes really fast. The other is we've kind of, because I think the whole session was, program was running late, we are having to dock a little and, pace it up a little. So what we'll do is, InsightStorms and how, InsightStorm as a format, how did it come about? We've been thinking about, we've used this for the last 15 odd years in our workshops. And we realized that when people come together, when you give them the stage, usually it's that a whole lot of self-congratulatory kind of ramble that happens. Ted reimagined it. I mean, you take accomplished people and put them in a time box, and what happens is pithiness. Surely a lot of pithy essence comes out. But even those 18 minutes are your time. You can just go on with your life story. How do you ensure that in a 15-minute session, large number of amazingly sharp insights get delivered powerfully? So what we also looked at was how insights are born from the intersection. When you bring two diverse fields together, from the intersection emerge amazing insights. So that's where we did our first InsightStorm in Bombay. It was art and business. We brought art and business together. And together with NASSCOM this year, we are talking about design, innovation, and customer experience. And we bring these together to see what are those intersections that we can create. And we've got experts and thought leaders from each of these fields, and we are bringing them together. So this is what we're going to do. But before that, how many of you were in our session last year in NPC? Can you raise hands? All right. So there are 2. Okay. So there's a interesting method called Storm the Norm method for innovation that we introduced in our book, which Anisha and I collaborated on. Anisha wrote the book. I did the methodology for it. It's an innovation methodology. I'm going to take you through those 5 stages. Now, these will help you. These will actually become lenses for you to consume what will happen next, and therefore you will be able to connect new dots and create new insights for yourself. So let's start there. This is the book, Storm the Norm. It's doing really well. 7 months for print runs already. This is one key insight that stared at us when we looked at these 20 stories of Indian brands that had stormed the norms of their industry and created unprecedented vibrancy. That market storms aren't purely accidental. There's a method to the magic of these storms. Every once in a while, a brand, a concept comes in and storms the norms of their industry, of their system. That it challenges the paradigm, and then after, there's a very definite before and after, and things are very different after that. So this is the first one. It all begins, we say in our book, it all begins with a stale, stagnant market. Now, what's a stale, stagnant market? There are indicators. There are indicators that are staring at you, but incumbents don't realize that they are in a stale, stagnant market. What do you see? You see commoditized offerings. You see mindless operations. You see wafer-thin margins. You also see a set of incumbents who seem to have resigned to their fates. In fact, you hear a lot of conversation like, the customer is very price sensitive. You can't really do anything. We've done everything that could have been done, but you see nothing much is possible. When you hear a discourse like that, you know you are in a stale, stagnant market. And this moment, you see a sea of sameness, and this stage or this state is ready and ripe for a stormer to arrive. Who are these stormers? Usually these stormers come from outside, but not always. Sometimes an incumbent becomes a stormer. Very interestingly, what does a stormer do? A stormer spots the suboptimal in the system. And we use an interesting children's story to bring alive this point. There's a pond ecosystem where there's the pond flora and fauna. There are plants and animals and everything else that live in the pond. There's fish and there's frogs. Every once in a while, these frogs jump out of the pond and go around and come back into the pond. They come back with a lot of fascinating stories about this amazing world outside water. And the animals that just can't go out of water listen to these frogs with rapt attention and say, wow, that must be a great world outside. And frogs come back and say, when we go out of water, we see air, we see animals, we see trees, we see this, we see that. Now this goes on for a long time till one day a baby fish asks an interesting question from this frog. It says, frog, when you say when you go out of water, you see this, you see that, must be great, but what is water? The frog doesn't know how to tell fish what water is. How do you tell fish what water is? Fish is born in water. It lives in water. It dies in water. It should be, if there is a PhD in water, that should be the fish, right? But then the frogs realize something very, very interesting. That in order to completely know water, you should surely know water well. You also need to know water. And that's something fish doesn't do. So the question we ask is it really possible to discern your paradigm completely from within it? And the question we keep asking everyone, every organization, any system is, if you are fish, what's your water? What is it that you can't discern, that you can't see, but an incumbent, an outsider, will be able to? What do these stormers do? These stormers ask new questions. Innovation is not just about asking, getting answers to the same questions that you've had always. It's about discovering new questions. You get answers to questions you ask. What about answers to questions that you don't ask? Are there questions that the whole system should be asking itself but isn't? Very interestingly, and we've looked at some examples of stormers that came from outside. These are examples, and we know these examples. Incumbents didn't. Sony missed MP3. Biggest beverage brands, Pepsi and Coke missed energy drinks. Kodak missed digital. We all know that. Hotels missed Airbnb. Transportation or taxis missed Uber, and the biggest of them all, the industry that attracts the most expensive talent in the world, the most talented people go there, banking. Banking or banks missed the last 3 disruptions in banking. Mutual funds didn't come from banks. Microcredit didn't come from a usual conventional bank, it came from Grameen Bank. Cryptocurrencies did not come from banks, and if you know, when bitcoins came and surprised and shocked everyone, the banks and the regulators were busy dismissing them, dismissing it and saying no. And in fact, they wanted to challenge it. But now, fortunately, everyone's realized the power of blockchains, and they've realized that the time for it has come, and if they can't fight it, and they better join it. You see, and stormers usually come from outside. What do? When you spotted a suboptimal, the solution's staring at you. And what's that solution? It's that quick and dirty new solution that comes to your mind first. And this is something the startup world has taught the legacy world already, that you can't wait for the best idea ever. If you're waiting for the best idea ever, you'll wait forever. You come up with the idea that's the best right now for you. That might be the alpha. That might be a beta. Take it into the market. Iterate it to elegance. Iterate it to elegance. Relentlessly iterate. Very interestingly, we realize that there is a difference between simplistic and elegant simplicity. The idea that comes to your mind first is simplistic. Then you take it through complexity. You iterate it a number of times. You reject multiple versions before you hit upon the winning version. You hit upon the winning version. You discover it. And therefore, the simplicity that emerges on the other side of complexity is elegant simplicity. But you must go through complexity to get to it. You can't jump to it. So therefore, we say that elegance or that winning version is an emergent phenomena. And that's what successful organized stormers do. What's the next stage? Pace to critical mass. Now, this is one of the bigger insights that both Anisha and I mean, it gave us our own personal ahas too. There are great ideas out there, and there are other great ideas out there, but only few succeed and others don't. What differentiates the ideas that succeed from the ones that don't is that the succeeding ideas, the successful ideas, in hindsight, the successful ideas are the ones that are able to hit the critical mass at a certain pace, a pace that creates a wave which creates a storm. The question to ask is, what's the critical mass in your industry? Is it those 20% consumers? Is it 10% consumers? Is it 5% highly engaged consumers? And what's the pace we must generate? If we do not generate that pace, it does not become a wave which becomes a storm. No organization in the world has the wherewithal to educate, as they say, 100% consumers and make them aware. You have to hit that. And very interestingly, we found examples after examples where the first unlock or the first critical mass wasn't even the primary target audience for whom you designed the product. It was a secondary. Actually, it was someone you discovered exists. You never knew they existed. But these are the people for whom your product or your offering was overdue. They accept you in spite of your flaws, in spite of your bugs, and they give you the opportunity to iterate and reach the elegance before you really go all out to capture your main primary audience. Very interesting. And then finally what happens in this, that's the fifth stage of storm that happens is fresh, vibrant market. The stormer has created the new norms. Everyone's now following them. The lazy, cynical incumbents are now playing catch up. Very interestingly, we realize that fresh norms at the end of the day are norms. And norms are nothing but a lull before the next storm arrives. Because this stormer who came in and stormed the norms has got normed. And the market is ready for the next stormer to arrive. So these are the 5 stages, and through this lens and through this model, when we look at industry after industry, and we realize that this is how stormers do it. And if we knew it, and if we know these are the stages, can we do it by design is the question. And that's what, in any case, we do, and the tools and techniques to doing it. We try to explain it using a principle of economics called total surplus. This is economics 101. Total surplus, as you know, this is a normal demand supply curve. Total surplus is the sum of consumer surplus and producer surplus. Consumer surplus is the maximum price that the consumer is willing to pay above the market equilibrium price. And producer surplus is the minimum price a producer is willing to accept below the market equilibrium price. You add them and you get total surplus. Let's take an example of an industry that has seen 2 storms in our lifetime, the cinema exhibition space. You know, when multiplexes came in, and before that we used to go to uniplexes or single screens. Let's call them uniplexes now that we've got a new phrase. We used to pay very little. I mean, I remember paying 20 rupees, 15 rupees for a movie. And what we saw was half full cinema hall, badly maintained, and you would wonder why the cinema hall owner doesn't do anything. And if he could do something to the hall, maybe more people will come, he'll make more money. But you realize there was very little producer surplus. If you asked him, you just charged me 20 rupees for the next movie, how much are you willing to accept below that? He said, nothing, I'm in losses already. You ask the consumer, you just paid 20 rupees for the next movie, how much are you willing to pay? Nothing. Maybe if you insist 22 rupees. With that wafer-thin total surplus, there was very little experimentation. This kind of a state turns you very risk-averse. No one wants to experiment. No experimentation means no innovation. Today, people pay what? 100, 200, 500, 1,000 rupees for a movie, gold class? If you ask someone, you just paid 100 rupees for the next movie, how much are you willing to pay? Say 150. 50 rupees consumer surplus. PVR will say, I'm ready to accept 70 rupees. I still make profits. 30 rupees produce a surplus with 80 rupees per consumer. Look at the kind of experimentation that's happening. New genres of movies, new kinds of directors, actors, everything. It's a vibrant market. But the stormer, the multiplex guy who was a stormer, has got normed. You see, the next stormer, the barbarians are at the gate already. OTT, Netflix. While we're talking about Netflix, there's also already Amazon and others. You see, when people can watch their favorite movies on their favorite device wherever they are, they won't forget the cinema halls. Obviously, they would want to watch some movies on the big screen, but out of those 10 movies they watch in a year, they're going to watch 8 on their device, their favorite device, at their favorite time, at their time of their choice. And they'll watch 2 in the cinema hall. You see, this amazingly vibrant market is ready to lose 80% of its business if they don't do anything. This industry is ready to get stormed all over again. But what did multiplexes do first, and what is OTT going to do next? They spotted a deep suboptimal that unlocked a hidden total surplus. Why do we say hidden total surplus? Because it's obvious only in hindsight. Only after it gets unlocked by an entity can the world see it, and then everyone plays catch up. Before that, you can't see it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. You see, that's how it is. All right, so that's the storm the norm method. And what we'll do now is, because we are this whole thing, that something that sits at the core of every innovation or every stormer is an insight. And today we are dedicating this whole rest of the session to insights, and you'll see it's going to be you're going to be binging on insights now. Just watch. Every 5 minutes there'll be an insight happening here. What's an insight? I mean, there are definitions upon definitions. So these are our definitions, just sharing with you. Insight is an emergent phenomenon. It's that new worldview altering meaning that emerges when unusual dots connect unexpectedly. And new meaning emerges, you see. So that's insight. There's another one that we use, a never said before articulation of a deep human truth that makes people jump up in their skin. And you want to slap yourselves on your head and say, why didn't I think of it sooner? Why didn't I think of that? That's so obvious. Of course. I mean, that's the response. Because it's the truth. You can't disagree with it, right? And here's an interesting way. And we feel, is insight just happy accident? If it were just happy, pure happy accident, then why would some people get more lucky than others with them? So obviously, they're doing something right to get insights. So what we've done is, at Storm the Norm, Anisha and I, we've developed a very simple to follow framework. Just watch this, and you can use this as the insights come to you. It all begins with an observation, a self-evident truth that doesn't need data or research to be proven. You know, it could come out of tensions in the society, frustrations, conflicts, discomforts, compromises, contradictions, trade-offs. Now, what do you do with that obvious truth? You have a new surprising discovery. Everyone knows that obvious truth, right? What is your new surprising discovery? That obvious, only in hindsight kind of a discovery. A fresh, new, penetrative view that reveals new meaning or understanding of the tension and its resolution. And from that, you articulate one clear, relevant, interesting, and actionable statement that becomes your insight. You know, someone asked Muhammad Yunus, when he was getting his Nobel Prize for microcredit, for Grameen Bank. What was that one key insight that sits at the core of this amazing new innovation of yours? He thought for a while, but he did give it along this thing. But over the years, he's just combined everything into 2 words, one phrase. He calls it social collateral. And he describes it in a very interesting manner. He says, for rural relations, loss of face is bigger than loss of money. You know what he was trying to say? What he was trying to say was that, how do you look at credit worthiness of the people you are lending to? There are ways. And then what do you use? You use collateral. He's got a house, he's got a car. But he says, the world that I live in, Bangladesh, people don't have houses and cars. And whatever they have, every few years, there are floods and everything is lost. But he says, what is collateral really? He asked a question that no one was asking. Who will ask such an obvious question? We know what collateral is. If someone says, what's collateral, say, what school did you go to? What banking, do you really have experience? But he asked a naive question. He says, what is collateral? He says, it is that something that forces the borrower to follow good banking behavior, which means it's so dear to him that forces him to follow good banking behavior. It makes sure that the borrower returns on time with discipline. He says, what is dear to us in Asia, rural people who don't have houses and cars? He says, izzat. Loss of face is bigger than loss of life. Can izzat be a collateral? And therefore, and then he says, why must collateral be tangible object? Can it be my image in the society? And that led to microcredit. You need a loan, you've come to me, okay, go back and get five other friends with you or 4 other friends with you. Each of you will get an individual loan, but the payback responsibility is collective. Because it's collective, and if one of you hasn't done your, and it's every week you have to pay your 500 takas, right? And if one of you couldn't, if I couldn't work, I couldn't earn I don't have my 100 takas to contribute, then others must contribute. So that puts a very interesting pressure and enablement. Everyone asks you, what are you doing? He says, no, I've not been well, or my son's not well. Okay, leave your son with us. You please make sure that you are making your handicrafts because, we have to pay back. And don't worry, we will help you. You can keep your, no bank will say, send your child here and take care of your business. But it's enablement and pressure at the same time. Very interesting. And then that one little cell turns into a web of life. Okay, you guys make handicrafts, but you don't know how to sell. We have another SHG, another group that actually takes it to the market and sells. We'll connect both of you. So you connect lots of these and it becomes a very interesting web. So you see how one insight, the next insight he got was equally important, that women are far more conscientious than men. You give money to a man, he'll go get drunk and nothing will happen. You give money to a woman, the family gets nurtured, the business, that micro enterprise gets nurtured. Anyway, so that's where we are, those are insights, and let's now kick off our insight storm. The first one is being done by both of us, Anisha and I. We'll do it. I'll talk on design, Anisha will talk on customer experience. And we are also doing it as a prototype for you. Because there are 4 insight storms, we'll all, including the console and the audience and us, we will understand what this format is through this first insight storm that will take no more than 10 minutes. And then we invite the next set of speakers and the next and the next. So you'll see 4 of these storms happening right here. Anisha.
Thank you, Ranjan.
So Anisha is the author of that book I spoke about, Storm the Norm. All right, so shall we start? Anisha, your turn first. So we'll do the insight storm in 3, each insight storm will be in 3 segments. The first segment is insights. And just like a tennis match, you'll see insights being shared one after the other. So Anisha shares her insight, one insight, I'll share my top insight. Then insight 2, insight 2, insight 3, insight 3. That's first segment over. In the first 5 minutes, you'll hear 6 insights. But only insights, no explanation. Segment 2 is stories. Oh, you'll hear that too, you see. That separates. That's right. So now you know how to do it. You see. The second segment is stories behind the insight. So I told you're doing well because I said your cue is stories behind insights, and he heard that and he played that. So the second would be stories behind insight. So I'll tell my story behind my first insight, story behind Anisha's insight. So story 1, story 1, story 2, story 2, story 3, story 3, just in a minute. Story in a minute. And then fresh insight. After having heard each other, if there's a fresh insight that just bubbled up for me, I share that, and Anisha shares hers, and we close it there. And the next storm happens after that, right?
Okay, my first insight. Forget need gaps, address greed gaps. A good customer experience design stokes greed and evokes desires, enabling irrational choices. Ranjan, your turn.
Very nice. All right. After products and processes, use biomimicry to design elegant systems. Systems that elegantly integrate the needs of society with the integrity of nature. Hashtag biomimicked systems.
Customer personas are nothing but a framework for consistent content delivery. Hashtag customer personas.
Modern lifestyles are configured around helping people chase only symptoms of happiness.
Keep them close and keep them busy. A powerful design weaves in stuff to empower consumers by attaching a value that consumers feel compelled to embody. Hashtag busy.
It's easier done than said. Hashtag iterate to elegance. Cryptic, isn't it? But now when the stories come, you'll know why we said all these. So the next segment, stories behind the insights, long one.
So forget need gaps, address greed gaps in your consumer experience design unless and until you are an emergency helpline service. Okay? This thing applies across journeys that I have created. Consumer doesn't need anything today. Okay? There is so much choice available in the universe, in the digital world today, that unless and until you weave in stuff that keeps the customer hooked, but beware, there's a fine line between stalking, seducing, and wooing. I don't know if you all know, if you've wooed a girl or if you've stalked a girl, if you've stalked a girl, you would lose her. But if you've wooed her and if you've seduced her gently, you would actually convert her into being your friend. So that's the trick that you need to do in any consumer product journey that you're creating. And there are various methods and means in which you can weave in emotion by it at every step to create that greed and to create the desire that with each step you're moving the consumer forward towards conversion.
All right. Oh. All right. You know what? Okay. All right. So after products and processes, use biomimicry to design elegant ecosystems, systems that elegantly integrate the needs of society with the integrity of nature. Very interestingly, we've realized that we've used biomimicry to design great products, inspired by nature. I think time has come to get inspired by nature at the system level. Look at the human systems. They are the systems that the man has designed. These are clumsy systems, mostly linear. They are hogging resources on one side and creating a dump on the other side we don't know what to do about. And Poonam Bir Kasturi will talk about daily dump later. So so that's the dump. And I think she's found a solution, we'll know. But interestingly, arrogant, anthropocentric man believes that we are in control and we can do stuff and we are you can't beat the master innovator of them all, nature. I mean, obviously 3.8 billion years of amazing dexterity, generosity of intent, and trial and error. I mean, this is what we have, and these systems are elegant, aren't they? So somewhere, just to tell you a very interesting story, we were doing a project with Novartis in Switzerland, and we were looking at the area of caregiving. And we realized that what's the problem? The problem is that you have professional caregivers, which is the nurses in the hospitals, and you have the family caregivers. If someone's unwell at home, I become a caregiver. But I'm a very clumsy caregiver. But through trial and error, I become a better caregiver. By the time I become a very good caregiver, the time for me to caregive is gone. Another person, another family starts the same clumsy journey all over again. So the whole thing was, how do we design a system? And we actually used nature to design a whole, because when we said caregiving ecosystem, there was nothing that existed in the world. There was some clumsy system that had emerged over the years. So using the current entities that exist, putting those building blocks together and say, therefore, if you were to take a blank slate and use these building blocks to create an ecosystem, which is elegant, how do we create that? Why did we have to do that? Because we realized that the intent might be right. There were some interesting examples of how we can sometimes, people in the family can smother a patient with love. Because I want to care for the person. There was a very interesting example we discovered in a family in London where there was this person at home and he would he had a very loving family. Everyone would bring everything to him, to the bed, eat this, eat that, you're not well, you won't be allowed to do anything, we'll work, we'll do everything for you. His health was slipping. Then he had to be taken to a hospice because nothing was working, and they realized that he started to do well. They said it wasn't the equipment, it was something else. And it was because he realized that the other people who were more unwell than him, he started getting his own water, making tea for them, and then he started to do well. We said intents are right, but how do we build systems? In nature, everyone operates out of self-interest, and still the system succeeds. Here, in the systems that man creates, everyone operates out of self-interest, and the system loses. So we'll come. Those are details we'll come to next. Story 2.
Customer personas are nothing but a framework for consistent delivery. Two recent journeys that I was involved in developing, and one in an organization where I spent many years, was a financial services. And I want to use that example to say, the usual things that we do when we are in large corporates. So we had to create a consumer e-commerce platform for the financial product. And there we called this whole large partner, technology partner, who had the UI, UX people. And the first thing that they said was, let's go and let's understand consumer personas, because you need to design your journey to different personas. And there itself, multiple millions of rupees spent. And the findings come, and the findings have 8 different consumer personas, defining financial behavior, segregating people by their financial behavior. That so-and-so is a nitpicker, so-and-so is a value-conscious person, an irrational investor, a risk, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Now, that's phase 1. Okay, after 3 months, we get these kind of personas coming out of a huge consumer research. Now comes the next step. Now, what do I do with those personas? What am I supposed to do with it? I am only offering 2 products, okay, which are basically debt products in the current portfolio that I have. And I have done this mega, research to create consumer personas, okay? And I've got 2 products. How do I weave that into my journey? How do I differentiate my journey so that I address different risk profile? Because in India, the input data system is still not integrated or sophisticated enough to tell you that when Ranjan comes to buy a product, forget even if I had 10 products, if I did not have 2 products, and we had these personas and we had journeys going by these personas, there is no input data that tells me at the point of time that he's coming in, is he coming in as a risky customer or is he coming in as a safe customer? So therefore, what do I offer him? So sometimes what we do is that we forget, we follow the process by the book. We go through this whole thing. And then when it comes to application, we realize that there are so many missing gaps that make this whole thing just fall and break up. And so therefore, for me, consumer personas is nothing but a framework for consistent content delivery. What is your content? How do you want to deliver it? And therefore, how do you work backwards to say, therefore, is there the 2 or 3 different journeys that we want to create? So don't make that mistake of going in for elaborate consumer journey researches.
All right, a slight change in plan. We've been told that so we'll have to cut short. There's another something that needs to be announced here from here. So what we'll do is, our stories will be half a minute stories now.
Great.
All right, so the tabla, the short one. All right, okay, let me just, okay, so my next insight was, okay, modern lifestyles are configured around helping people chase only symptoms of happiness. Very interestingly, I've seen teams really talk about, what are the rational needs? What are the emotional needs we are designing around? Somewhere we've realized over the years there are no rational and emotional needs. There are only primal needs. And these are only rational and emotional expressions of the primal needs. And if you can hinge your product around a primal need, let me tell you, you'll never ever you won't need to educate the customer. Because if it is hinged around primal instincts, the customer will anyway do it. So I'll leave it at that, won't go forward. Anisha, your second.
Keep them close and keep them busy, Everybody is talking about keeping customers hooked and engaged during the process of purchase. But the problem is, what do you keep them busy with? Okay, and that is where the trick lies. How do you keep them busy with emotions, okay, or with value systems that the consumer feels compelled to embody? Okay. Now that is the trick. What is the emotion that your brand is standing for? How do you weave that in? If I want my brand to stand for honesty and transparency, how do I engage them and keep them busy with that value? As against keeping them busy, I am searching for a medical product and suddenly, a pair of shoes, pops up at me, because that's the last search that I did. I'm sorry, that's very detracting. So idea is to keep them busy, but keep them busy with your values, something that empowers customers and helps them embody values that they want to live.
Right. And my third one, and very quickly, it's easier done than said. Iterate to elegance. I think my only support to that insight would be a prototype is much more eloquent than the best idea evangelist. You can keep talking about your idea, but go ahead and build that prototype. And it's so eloquent, it engages, it invites people to engage with it, and then you can iterate to elegance. So I'll leave it at that. There was a story, but I know we have to cut short.
Yeah. So my fresh insight after listening to Ranjan.
No, your third insight. Oh, it's happened. Yeah.
Yes,
Your fresh insight, yes.
So my fresh insight after listening to Ranjan is aspiration, emotion, and reputation. 3 musts at the heart of a good customer experience design. Aspiration, emotion, and reputation.
For me, my fresh insight after having looked at what Anisha said was 2 words: discovery and emergence. I think amazing. I think we are very arrogantly. We start with a mental model. We say these are the consumer segments. This is what they want. We only end up validating them. Go ahead and discover. The best insight will be an emergent phenomenon. The best idea that works in the market will be an emergent phenomenon. You'll discover it. You'll reject multiple versions before you hit upon the final one. So discovery and emergence is where I will leave it. And that's it. The storm ends here. We are having to stop very quickly because there is something very important that we
You see, what you just saw before this launch was one InsightStorm. That's the format we'll follow. When you come back from lunch at 2:30, we'll have 3 amazing InsightStorms of 15 minutes each. Again, short, crisp, and powerful insights. You'll see this like an insight jam. So we have 6 amazing speakers in the room. And I will not announce their names, but we have, so the 3 InsightStorms are design practitioners, design educationists, and design entrepreneurs. Just watch what's coming. Be back after lunch, and we'll resume. Thank you.